Okay, today we're going to talk about the law of sines. Everything we have talked about has been with a right triangle, so a triangle with a 90-degree angle. That is when you can use SOHCAHTOA, sine, cosine, and tangent with those ratios. But now we're going to be talking about the law of sines, and tomorrow the law of cosines, which is with an oblique triangle, so not 90-degree angle. And the main thing is understanding how we're going to label this triangle. Now, our angles are labeled with capital letters, and our sides are labeled with lowercase letters, and they're opposite of where the angle is. So if this is angle A, this is side A. If this is angle B, this is side B. If this is angle C, then this is side C. And what we're doing is the law of sines is taking ratios and relationships between the sides and the angles. So maybe we're going to use the side of A with the sine of A and find its relationship with the side of B and the sine of B. Or maybe we're going to use it with C. Now you're only going to use two out of these three. So maybe you're going to use these two, or these two, or these two. But that's going to help you find the missing parts. So what you're looking for is like a match between the angle and the side. So if you look at this first example here, if we are given angle C is 102.3 degrees, angle B is 28.7 degrees, and side B is 27 feet. So when we go to set this up, angle A, B, C, we know that angle C is 102.3 degrees. We know angle B is 28.7, and we know side B is 27 feet. So I'm looking for a pair of a side and an angle that I have for a match. And I have that right here in B. So this now lets me use the law of sines. So the side to the sine of the angle is equal to, now I'm looking for one that I have half. And what do I have half of? I've got the angle but not the side. So I'm going to find the side of C when I already know the angle. So I know 3 out of 4 parts to this ratio. And now, how do we solve something like this? We cross multiply. So 27 times the sine of 102.3 equals C times the sine of 28.7. And now if I solve for C, I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 28.7. And I should have my side C. Now, a couple things to note before you use your calculator. Make sure you are in degree mode. And I'm going to take 27 times the sine of 102.3. I like to hit enter first, then divide by the sine of 28.7. I just want to make sure that my calculator understands the order of operations that I'm using. And we will round to the nearest whole number, so that is 55 feet. Now, solving a triangle means finding all the missing sides and angles. Well, what are we still missing here? We're missing A. We don't have anything for A. But there is one thing that I can find for A right now. What do we know about all 3 sides of a triangle? All 3, not sides, but all 3 angles. We know that all 3 angles add up to 180 degrees. So if I know that, I am able to take 180 and subtract the 102.3 and the 28.7 from it and see that this is 49 degrees. I didn't have to use trig. I could figure that out. Now that I have an angle, I can find the side. So now I'm going to find side A. So I'm going to use my first match that I had between a side and an angle. And I know that 27 is to the sine of 28.7, as side A is to the sine of 49 degrees. And again, I'm going to cross multiply, so 27 times the sine of 49 equals A times the sine of 28.7. If I want to solve for A, I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 28.7. So side A ends up being right around 42. Now my triangle is completely solved because I know all three sides and all three angles. Here's one way you can just kind of guess or check a little bit to see if you're right, is look at the biggest angle. The biggest angle is 102.3 degrees. What is the biggest side? 55. What is the smallest angle? 28.7. Which is the smallest side? The 27. So if you think about angles opening up a little bit versus a lot of it, right, their sides are going to match in the bigness of the triangle. Okay, let's try one more here really quick. Given C is 78, A is 75, and angle A is 63 degrees. Set up your triangle. Well, what's a hint that I'm given sides or angles? Well, first of all, angles are given to us with degrees, and sides are with lowercase letters. This is hard to know if this is a lowercase c or an uppercase C, but because there's no degree symbol or angle symbol, I'm going to assume it's a side length, and angle. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for my pair that matches. And I have an angle and a side. So the side of A is to the sine of angle A. And then I'm going to look for the next part that I have a half to, and that's right here. I do not know the side length, but I do, I do know the side length, but I do not know the angle to C. So now as we cross multiply, 78 times the sine of 63 degrees equals 75 times the sine of C. And I'm going to divide both sides by 75, and I'm going to be left with the sine of C. So 78 times the sine of 63, then divide by 75, and I get 0.9266. Well, that doesn't really make sense, does it? Does it make sense that this was a 63 degree angle and it opens up to 75 feet? This should be pretty close to 63 degrees also, and I got 0.9266. Well, that's what the sine of the angle is equal to. We need to know the angle. So how do I find the missing angle? What key do I use on my calculator? I have to do the inverse sign now to both sides. That will give me C. And when I do the inverse sign, I get 67.9 or 68 degrees, which makes a whole lot more sense when this angle in here was 63 degrees. Okay? Now, I'm missing all parts to B, but what do we know? We know two angles, so 180, take away 63, take away 68, leaves us with 49 degrees here. And now I'm able to find B. So I'm going to go back to my original. 75 is to the sine of 63 degrees. B over the sine of 49 degrees. Cross multiply and divide both sides by the sine of 63. And B equals 63.5, or we'll say 64. Now, how can I do a quick check to see if I'm right? Well, the biggest angle was 68 degrees, the biggest side measurement was 78, the smallest angle was 49, and the smallest side was 64. So for the most part, I think that I'm correct. Okay? Tomorrow we're going to look at the law of cosine.